Hey guys, this is Blake from Blake's Sanctum, retro site for retro games. Subscribe.
Welcome to my special part 3 video continuing my huge tour of Sid Meier's Civilization 2 and its greatest total conversion scenarios. If you've come to this video first, then you've missed out on part 1 where I took you on a tour of the game, its add-on packs, and commenced the mega tour of the best fan-made total conversion scenarios starting with Star Wars and Star Trek. And if you've missed out on part 2 where I continued the fan-made scenario tour with more sci-fi scenarios, historical scenarios from ancient times all the way up to modern times, and a whole lot of the best fantasy scenarios. So if you've missed all that, then I've got a link up top. There's also ones below in the video description to get you back to them. But as for this part 3 video, let's pick up where we left off. Now I guess it's time for the final part of this video, which is showcasing my own mod projects, where I, with others, have tried in many ways to push Civ 2's graphical limits and do all kinds of crazy things. And there is nothing crazier and bigger than our Heroes of Might and Magic 2 scenario mod pack, since as you can see we have almost changed everything, making it the largest total conversion mod ever made for Civ 2 MGE. Inspired by Tom 2050's amazing Heroes of Might and Magic 3 mod for Civ 3, I wanted to create a Heroes 2 Civ 2 mod to complement it, and discovered another fellow named MetroPolis also had a similar dream. So we teamed up. With some help from the Heroes 2 and Civ 2 fan communities, we started changing so much stuff in Civ 2. Almost all the graphics, the music, the sounds, even all the videos. To get them working with our included scenario, there are some technical issues, but I'll cover that in a separate dedicated mod tour video. So now that we're in the game, let's have a look around. Heroes fans may wish to play more zoomed in, like I've done so here, and you can see we've replaced the Civ 2 Fog of War with a nice starry Heroes 2 one. And yes, if we're going to change everything, we've got to change the throne room, where we've made a nice castle puzzle where you can build your favourite castle type piece by piece. And then since it's the start of the game, it's probably the perfect time to talk to these grumpy guys.
Give me more soldiers, noble leader, that they may sheathe their swords in the beating hearts of our enemies!
Yes, I have replaced the High Council, which is, as far as I know, the first time any Civ 2 modder has ever done this before.
I see.
He speaks the truth, Excellency. Excellency, let us make currency instead of swords, for it is wealth that moves the world, and profit that rules it.
And it was a hell of a job. And yes, I also did their anarchy videos too.
Who knew this was going to happen? I knew this was going to happen!
There will be no more gods, women will...
Now naturally, all factions from Heroes 2 have been added, such as the sorceresses in the forests, the human night kingdoms, the powerful arid-dwelling wizards, the evil warlocks in their volcanic ashland, the wasteland barbarians, the rotting undead necromancers, and we also took inspiration from the Heroes 3 Succession Wars mod to create a special 7th bonus desert faction comprised of neutral units. Now for all these races, we have filled Civ 2's unit slots to the max and put every Heroes 2 unit we could in there, and a few extra ones. They're very different games, but we've done our best to give them different Civ unit special abilities based on the ones they had in Heroes 2. MetroPolis has even put together a special custom fantasy tech tree, and I've given them nice icons using Heroes 2 assets too. We've replaced all the city buildings with Heroes of Might and Magic universe equivalents, and Metro decided to keep the original Civ 2 names in there just to help regular players know which is which. And of course, naturally, we've replaced all the wonders too, which was tough to think of Heroes equivalents for some of these, hence why you'll see a mix of buildings, artifacts and spells. Which of course leads us into the best part. We have created custom movies using Heroes 2 cutscenes for all the wonders. And here's a couple of them. I'll have to show you guys more of these in a bonus episode. But for now, let's load up a Sorceress test save game to show you guys all the custom advisor backgrounds we did, including the tax slider window, city status, defense minister, all using cool and semi-related shots from Heroes 2 cutscenes. We've also done the spy report, attitude, the trade, science, wonders, top 5 cities, the score, demographics, and you'll also see the spaceship is no longer a spaceship, but I'll show you that in a minute. But for now, how about I go back to our foreign minister and show you how we've replaced the diplomacy screen background, leader faces, and even the 3D video herald characters that will play different Heroes 2 battle animations for each creature depending on whether they're happy or mad. And it looks like Archibald and his black dragon are too scared of me to get angry, so I'll try his brother Roland, who has a mighty titan. Looks like he's a bit intimidated by me too, but I got a bit of a reaction out of him. Anyway, I'm going to load a late game test save now, where you can see I've heavily built up the lands and all my villages are now castles. Things look like they're going pretty well, so let's see what the council says.
Let love and wine their rights maintain. No complaints, sire, and their united pleasure.
Yep, they're good. So let's have a closer look at my castles then. And you've probably already previously noticed in the video that we're using custom city backgrounds. And in my capital here you can see I've built all the buildings and all the wonders. And instead of building spaceship parts, I've been capturing and breeding dragons. And why don't we have an even closer look at those buildings, as yes, we've even modded the city sky view, which I'm not sure if anyone else has done before. We've put most of the wonders on pedestals, however because there's so many wonders in the city we can't really see many other buildings, can we? So how about we go check out one of the other castles, maybe one of the nice seaside ones where you can see lots of nice buildings we've imported from Heroes 2. And I'll also take this moment to point out the golden yellow text in the city name and in all the main GUI windows, as I found a way to use custom font colours in Civ 2. But anyway, let's stop teasing and actually show you guys the spaceship replacement. As using Matt's Game of Thrones scenario dragon template I showed you guys earlier, we've created our dragon spaceship replacer that will start as an egg and then hatch and then grow into a mighty azure super dragon to win the game. And naturally, if I'm going to replace the spaceship construction sequence, then I've got to do the launch videos too, of course. So using video editing tricks, I made the normally green dragons from Heroes 2 blue to suit our Azure Super Dragon theme, which was not easy, as obviously I didn't want everything else in the video to turn blue too. So now that our Super Dragon is flying through the night sky, I'll load up a save game right before victory to show you the rest of the dragon videos I made. For the first bit, I had to change the victory text to sound less spaceship-like, and as for the videos, I should point out that as well as having to make all the green dragons blue, I also needed to get rid of the Heroes 2 narrator voice and redo all the audio using Heroes 2 sounds and music too. There we go. Couldn't stop that video glitch at the end, sadly. It was just something with the old 90s converter. And of course we've changed the score backgrounds too. Now of course if we're going to change the spaceship victory, then we just had to change the other endings too. So once again I'll use my recent Barbarian save game to show you guys the military victory sequence, where I decided to use the Heroes 1 guillotine death sequence background, as I figured it would go great with Civ 2's guillotine sequence that they both share. And as you can see the guillotine coming down on my enemies, this also shows you guys more of our custom leaders, as we've replaced all 42 possible Civ leader slots with male and female hero faces. So in the end it's come out pretty good. But lastly, now I'm going to show you guys a new game where I'm killing my settler heroes to show you guys the death videos, where we've put the Heroes 2 death sequence and add-on pack intro sequences to use. I'd love to also show you guys our custom unit sounds in battle and drop a nuke, cast the Armageddon spell of course, on someone, but I think I'll do that in a bigger, longer bonus episode about this mod, so look out for that in the playlist. Oh, and I should also say that we're doing a special Heroes of Might and Magic 1 add-on to this mod pack, just for fun, and maybe we'll look at doing a Heroes 3 and Heroes 4 version one day for test of time too, as that supports multiple worlds, so we could do the underground levels. But anyway, on to the next mod, as I learned so much after working on this project that I quickly moved on to another dream scenario idea, a Command and Conquer Tiberium universe scenario. Now I didn't feel like designing a scenario from the ground up, so I was thrilled to find that a fellow named Wonks2150 had made a cool CNC Africa scenario years ago with hybrid CNC1 and CNC2 units that was just lacking custom graphics, giving me the perfect template to make a dark, moody Tiberium universe looking scenario with totally new graphics and sounds. And as you can see here, learning from all the work done on the Heroes of Might and Magic scenario, I couldn't resist doing a custom intro cutscene and sneaking in a little Civilization 2 title into the video as well. And I've also completely overhauled the main menu screen with nice custom CNC themed graphics. And if I start the scenario, you guys can pause the video if you want to read that text, but basically, to keep Wonks' original vision of it being a hybrid CNC scenario, I've set it between the first and second Tiberian Wars. And because I've kept his hybrid theme with units from both the first and second game, it's allowed me to use some of the epic fan-created unit models that recreate the first CNC game units in isometric 3D voxel for the second game's engine. So I reached out to the guys behind epic mods like Twisted Insurrection and Crystallized Doom for permission to use their stuff, and they were happy to let me. And as you'll see in a sec, I've got all sorts of great stuff in here. Now, welcome to Tiberian Africa. As you can see, we've got lots of custom graphics, including events. And I've done a nice dark and moody city background, taken from CNC3 of Cain and the Nod Temple. And as you can see, Nod have huge armies ready to attack. We've got lots of custom buildings as well, and you can build lots of Nod units and buildings. And because the trooper units are so small, I've made them into little tiny squads to increase their size, so when we send one of them in to attack the GDI. Here we've got nice custom sounds as well. In fact, I spent a ton of time extracting sound effects out of the original CNC games and putting them together in different formations to create sound effects for every unit in this mod, to really up that immersion. And it's quite funny hearing all the old troopers screaming in agony sound effects again. Now, GDI players will find it hard to hold on at the beginning, as their forces are stretched thin, so the defences are quite light. However, some of these bigger cities in the north do have some firestorm city defences, so I'm using some heavy firepower to break through. But what I'd actually recommend odd players to do is focus on taking as many neutral cities as possible, as they are very lightly defended, and the more you can take, the more infrastructure, economy and science you can set up to get more strong units and use them against GDI. And because Wonk set up these neutral warlords in the barbarian slot, the AI GDI player will attack them as well. So you need to take as many of these cities as you can before the enemy player does. And to slow you down, Wonks has set up a whole bunch of GDI and Nod village units around the map that will get in your way, and you have to clear them out first. Now if we turn on cheat mode and reveal a bit more of the map, we can see what's going on. GDI have a fleet of reinforcements from Europe in the north, and you can see around the map I've got a lot of imported graphics from both CNC2 for the terrain and CNC1 for map objects and the city bases. And yes, if anyone's wondering, those Tiberian trees and fields will expand and are quite dangerous. Now GDI players will take comfort in the fact that they are in much better shape in South Africa, and there are stronger forces down there that you'll need to bring up to stop the Nod advance. There's a neutral player in Madagascar who won't attack you, and you can leave alone if you want. And back up in the north, there's a little bit of naval action here, so I may as well chuck a cruise missile across at those GDI ships to show you that sound effect too. Good stuff. Now, just like in the Heroes of Might and Magic mod, I've gone through all the advisor screens, replacing all the backgrounds with suitable equivalents from Command and Conquer, so I tried to find things relating to money and science and spying and looking at maps of intel and important wonder buildings, and as you can see, I've added a whole bunch into the game and given them to the various players to give each different faction their own special bonuses. Now why don't I change players over to GDI so I can show you something else cool. And while we're playing as them, I may as well attack with this ship to show you that sound effect. Boom! And if we go into diplomacy, we can talk to Kane. And as you can see, it looks quite different to regular Civ 2s. It's taking ideas from Nighttime's diplomacy screen that he helped us with in the Heroes of Might and Magic mod. I developed a new transparent sci-fi-ish sort of template for the Dune 2 scenario, which I'll be showing you guys in a few minutes. And then I backported it to some of my older scenarios like this one and gave it a nice green theme to suit the mod. Now, as mentioned earlier, I've filled this scenario with custom buildings, and those with a keen eye will notice some red alert stuff in there. Admittedly, that was just to fill some gaps that I just couldn't find good Tiberium universe equivalents for. So apologies to the purists. And also, as mentioned earlier, we've got a bunch of custom wonders as well that I've given to each of the factions. So we've got things like the Hand of Nod that helps their troops be stronger, and we've got GDI Economic Aid, which gives them some income benefits. And then, of course, we've got all the units. And as you can see, I've added quite a few. We've got lots of famous GDI and Nod units from both the first and second Tiberian Wars. So we've got things like flame tanks and artillery, and of course the almighty mammoth tank with some rather nice anti-air abilities. And to give you a better look at these units, here's a promotional save I made that has all the units scattered around the desert, ready to tear each other to bits. Zoom in to give you a better look at them. I can show you a few more sound effects. But the main reason I've done this is because I want to show you the almighty one. I think it's time we go full Gandhi again and drop a Nod nuclear missile on one of those poor GDI cities. And to make this, I combined a whole bunch of sound effects from the original game together to make this sound utterly epic and devastating. Oh, the humanity. And lastly, to finish off with this mod, I may as well show you what happens when you die, as I was always a fan of this video in CNC2 Tiberian Sun. Ooh, splat. So yeah, that's it for this one. I had a lot of fun making it, but this was nothing compared to what was to come, because I wanted to take all the skills I'd learned in the Heroes of Might and Magic and this CNC scenario and really take things to the next level. In that, after seeing some of the cool city-based Civ 2 scenarios you guys saw earlier in this video, like the Mafia one, I thought it'd be so cool to recreate the first mission from Red Alert 2, where you're battling in the city streets of New York against a huge Soviet invasion force. And as you could see, once again, I couldn't resist putting in big cutscenes from the original game and converting everything I can. And this is probably one of the scenarios I'm the most proud of, as I had to use some crazy trickery to recreate this city in big super skyscrapers. So get ready for some crazy stuff you never thought you'd see in Civ 2, folks. I love this intro. I've lost count of the amount of times I've watched the original, though I had to cut out the starting stuff with President Dugan and Premier Romanov for this, otherwise it gets too long. Now when this finishes playing out, you're going to see I've done another nice custom Red Alert 2 themed Civ 2 main menu screen, and I've written up some intro text talking about the scenario and the factions that you guys can pause the video to read if you want. And similar to the CNC mod, I've imported a lot of units from Red Alert 2, way more for this scenario in fact. And to solve some faction balancing issues, I've even reached out once again to the CNC fan community and got permission to use some cool extra Red Alert 2 themed units from great fan projects like Mental Omega, Psychic Legacy, and Red Alert Colony Wars. Oh, paratroopers incoming. Good thing they're mine. Got some new walls as well, but we'll skip that for now. Well, welcome to New York and Liberty Island, where as you can see, all hell is about to break loose. Now if we head over to the American Ally side of the map and turn on cheat mode, you'll see it looks familiar, but not quite the same. as in the original Red Alert 2 mission, the dockyards area below Fort Bradley was under Soviet control, whereas here it's still under Allied control, but some Russian V3s are poised to try and take it. But up north, things should look a bit more familiar, as at Fort Bradley we've got some guard dogs and of course Tanya. Then we've got the construction and ore mining side, and the towers with the garrisons in them, which I've used a special 3x3 cell formation editing trick to create these supersized objects in Civ 2, although it still wasn't big enough for me to make the second tower as tall as the first one, sadly. Then further up we've got that well-known car park area from the original where Soviet paratroopers come down every few turns next to the McBurger Kong and petrol station. Then things start to get a bit different, as I wanted to make the map more balanced for each side, giving them similar land masses and bases with a bridge choke point separating them. Now on the west side of the map, the Soviets have taken control of more buildings and have a significantly larger army, but the Allies still control most of the buildings, slowing down the Soviets a lot, so they're going to need to clear them out street by street as quick as possible before the Allies can regroup. And you'll notice that as I clear them out, the buildings change to a more damaged version, just like in the original. And if I hop into one of the Russian bases, you can see that I've got a nice custom background again, and we've got lots of Red Alert 2 themed buildings that you can buy and sell. And of course over in the production area we've got access to a whole lot of imported Soviet units with various special abilities, all using their proper original graphics. And I think I'll build a guard tower. Now a unique unit that you can't build are the special hero units, and so if the Allies got Tanya, then naturally the Soviets get Boris. Hero units are packed to the brim with special abilities, and as you can hear I've given them some extra special sound effects. Now everyone loves Kirovs, as they can stomp through nearly anything, but as you can see here they will struggle a bit with garrison skyscrapers, so we get to hear their dramatic death sounds. The Russians have taken control of their own dockyards. Now let's have some fun and show you guys some more custom sound effects as we break through Liberty Island's defences. Sadly, due to Civ 2's unit sound slot limitations, I had to combine some unit sounds, but I'll be able to fix that in a future test of time version. And I should take this moment to mention my Heroes 2 modding buddy MetroPolis helped me create a lovely custom Civ 2 cement wharf water shoreline similar to Red Alert 2's original one, and creating that land bridge in Civ 2 without coastlines involved all sorts of trickery. Alright, we've cleared the way for the Kirovs. Bye bye. And just like in the original mission, Premier Romanov makes a gloating announcement to the struggling Allied defenders.
United States, the great Soviet Union. See your liberty, how she lies broken before you. In but a moment's time, your once powerful city of New York will follow in her footsteps. The choice is yours. You can continue to mourn your past, or surrender and join us in the great Soviet Revolution.
No, Comrade Premier, it has only begun, and the Statue of Liberty lies in ruins. But now I'm going to reset things and switch over to the Americans so I can show you some more stuff, including Tanya. I just had to use her most iconic lines, of course. Now, just like in my other Civ 2 mods, I've gone through all the advisor screens, replacing all the backgrounds with suitable equivalents from Red Alert 2, with cities, defense, and diplomacy. And speaking of which, why don't we try to reason with Premier Romanov, as once again I've taken my Dune 2 sci-fi holographic diplomacy template and applied it to this scenario too, with a red theme. No, he doesn't want a bar of us, as we Romanovs have our legacy to consider. Then we've got attitude and trade and science, and once again I've done a bunch of custom wonders, top bases, score and objectives as it's a battle scenario, and demographics, all customized. Now if we hop into the pedia, you can see I've once again replaced Civ 2's buildings, as this time around I was able to find Red Alert universe equivalents for all of them. And as mentioned earlier, I've added a bunch of custom wonders from either Red Alert 2 or New York itself, or both in the case of the Old World Trade Center, as Red Alert 2 came out before 9/11 and is set in the 60s, so there was actually a mission where you had to defend it. And also, as mentioned earlier, I've packed in as many Red Alert 2 units as the Civ 2 engine would allow, so we've got all the fan favorites like the Apocalypse tank and the mighty Kirov airships and Lightning Storm super weapons. You can see Tanya's overloaded with abilities, and yes, we've even got Yuri. He belongs to us. Now let's finish up with some death and destruction, as I've programmed some rather dramatic sound effects for when hero units get killed, so I'll cheat in an allied prism tank and take out Bottas.
Critical unit
Good
lost.
stuff. And next it's time for us to channel our inner Gandhi again and drop a nuke. Now I've made it rather difficult to use super weapons in this scenario, as this is New York after all, but they are there. Ouch. That's looking very radioactive. And speaking of nukes, I've put in another custom death video if you fail. Well, that's it for that one. As you'll see with my next scenarios, I've gotten much better at smooth sprite downsizing over the years, so I can probably redo all the pixely jagged units and buildings from Red Alert 2 if there's enough interest and demand out there, but that'll have to wait for a future test of time version, which I can then back convert the graphics to MGE. As now, it's time to move on to my next scenario, which, as you've probably already worked out from the intro video playing, yes, it's a Dune 2 scenario for Civ 2, as it kind of annoyed me that there were no authentic Dune 2 scenarios out there for Civ 2 using imported assets, so I decided once again to fill the void myself 25 years too late. Now it breaks my heart to do this, but I'm fast forwarding this bit as I couldn't bring myself to cut down the size of the iconic Dune 2 intro sequence, so I converted the whole 2.5 minute cutscene into this mod. But obviously, as I've said before, I'll be doing full tours of all my mods in separate bonus videos where I'll show you more stuff and actually play a bunch of turns too. So like I said earlier, I really wanted to make an authentic Dune 2 scenario for Civ 2 that uses lots of imported graphics to look and feel like the original game. So I've made a lovely custom title screen, and if you pause to read my intro text, you'll see we've got the Atreides, Ordos, and Harkonnen, but also 3 extra factions: the Empress Sardaukar, the Native Fremen, and a mercenary guild from the popular fan-made Super Dune 2 and Dune Extended projects, with the author's permission. Well, here we are. Welcome to Arrakis. We've already got worm signs, so we better get this harvester out of there. Sandworms will regularly spawn around the map in the deserts, and they are very powerful. Now that he's safe, if we go into our capital, you can see we've got the usual custom background and Dune-themed buildings that you can buy and sell. We've already got a few interesting build options here, and you'll notice the units are color-coded to each faction just like in Dune 2. And if I activate cheat mode and reveal the map, I can give you an idea of the battle theatre where all players start in their own areas, giving them a fighting chance, and you'll notice many of them have their own unique city graphics based on original Dune 2 base buildings. And if I go into some of the enemy capitals, you'll see I've given each faction 2 wonders to ensure you get a unique experience playing as each one. For example, Duke Leto Atreides is popular with other players in the Landsrat. The Fremen have underground water caches, so they don't need water silos. The Harkonnens ensure loyalty via their dreaded heart plugs. The Emperor has elite troops. The Ordos have their Ixian tech arrangement, and the Mercs have contracts from the spacing and spice mining guilds, boosting their economy. Now I might go into diplomacy early since we're playing as the Atreides, so I can show you my new custom sci-fi transparent holographic diplomacy screen that uses the communication room from Dune 1 and Mentats from Dune 2, as I'm sure fans all remember our old Harkonnen friend here. However, for the new factions, I've used Dune Extended's Mentats, who used characters from Dune 1 with recoloured homeworlds, which I've also squished into their screen images here for extra effect. Now since we're here, I may as well get some intel, which as you can see I've picked an appropriate image of the Saboteur escaping, and you might also notice there are some team alliances set up. As we're allied with the Fremen, the Harkonnens are not so secretly allied with the Emperor, and the Ordos and Mercs are helping each other out too. Now if I load a mid-game save where I played as the evil Harkonnens, I'll show you the rest of my custom advisor screens, where you'll see I've used a whole bunch of beautiful images from both Dune 1 and Dune 2. And because they came out around the same time, their artwork goes quite well together, and by using both games as a resource, I was able to find better appropriate images for each of the different advisor types. I really like those sunset images from Dune 1, as that game had a full day-night cycle in it. Now let's have a look around, shall we? Like some of the other Dune scenarios out there for Civ 2, I've done the ocean is sand trick to better keep players apart, and I've also used the railroads over ocean trick to create the spice builds. I then painstakingly created a full custom coastline based off the original Dune 2 rock edges, and you'll notice I've replaced all the special resources with Dune 1 sieges, and I've replaced air bases, irrigation and mines with Dune 2 equivalents like wind turbines and silos. Now if we head into the Civilopedia, you'll see I've put together a bunch of custom text and icons for this scenario. The tree is small, but I've slowed research speed down to ensure games aren't too quick. Dune 2 has a limited number of base buildings, so to replace the huge amount of Civ 2 buildings, I mimicked Dune 2's building upgrade system and also filled in other gaps with Dune universe inspired buildings using Dune 1 graphics. Then there's of course the aforementioned Dune universe faction specific wonders that grant them different abilities, and then lastly we've got all our color coded faction units, which due to Dune 2's age are rather small sprites, so I will be providing double sized versions for players that struggle to see these ones. Some of the unit graphics has also been tweaked by me, such as new worm riders and better looking Sardaukar with their glowing green faces. Now if I load up a late game save, I can show you how you can build your own guild highliners using Civ 2's spaceship system, as there's a tech and a wonder you can get to design them. Then you build the parts in your bases, and then if you go to the spaceship screen, you'll end up with a ship in orbit of Arrakis ready to go and conquer the known universe. While I was tempted to do full custom highliner ship graphics, it's just too much work, so I kept Civ 2's original spaceship but replaced the background planet with Dune. So let's hit launch, and as you can see I've made a nice little preparing for launch video using the Dune 2 intro's frigate loading and unloading sequence. And it's off. Now while we're off conquering the rest of the universe, we should probably deliver a message to the Emperor. Full Harkonnen Gandhi style, baby! Now his capital area has a huge defense shield, so best to drop it nearby up here. And once again I've spliced together some nice custom sounds taken from the original game. Boom! Now to finish up, I've loaded my victory save where we can see I've Dunified the spaceship victory text and video sequence too. There's nothing with spaceships in the PC version of Dune 2, so I used the intro from the lesser known Sega Genesis Mega Drive port of Dune 2, as that has several spaceships zooming around the planet. And lastly, I have also created a video for when you die, using that lovely action-packed part of the Dune 2 intro where things go bad and look a bit grim. Only one house will prevail.
Only one house will prevail.
Well, that's it for this one, but I wanted to mention that I'm probably going to convert this one into a test of time scenario like the others, but then do a Dune 2000 version of it, as then I can use all the wonderful and more realistic graphics from that game, Emperor Battle for Dune, and David Lynch's film. But for now, it's time to cover the latest and likely last of my big Civ 2 total conversion scenarios. And it's rather fitting that this is the last one, as I like to think I'm at the peak of my powers, and that's what this scenario needed, as for years people talked about creating a proper SID MEIER'S Alpha Centauri scenario for Civ 2, but it just never really properly happened. So I decided to take the 3 existing projects, John Maven's Alpha Centauri scenario, John Valdez and Andrew Living's unfinished Smack Civ 2 mod project, and Dracon's Smack Ripoff Pack 2. Combine them and then overhaul everything with freshly converted assets by me into a huge total conversion Smack scenario for Civ 2. I had originally hoped that I'd be able to use a lot of the assets from those existing projects, saving me time, but in the end most of them weren't quite up to scratch, so redoing almost everything ended up being a huge challenge. But as you'll soon see, the end result made it all worth it. And as you can see, I've also converted the intro video from Smack, although only the second half of it, when the Unity leaves Earth, otherwise it's a bit too long. I've also done an Alpha Centauri style main menu title screen, and when starting the scenario you'll see I've taken the text from starting a new game in original Smack and adapted it for this. Now all original 7 factions have been imported into the mod, but no Alien Crossfire add-on factions, sorry. I'm starting a new game as good old Chairman Yang of the Hive, and oh dear, looks like we've already got company out there, guys. We'll leave the city for a minute, and as you can see we've got a heavily inspired Smack tech tree, and I think I'll go for industrial economics as that should give us an energy bank. And here we are, we've landed on the surface of Alpha Centauri, and it's time to explore the unknown with our starting scout. I've changed the fog of war to look like Smack's black and blue grid fog of war, and we've got some very authentic Smack looking alien terrain around us. If we go into our capital you can see we've got Smack citizens, a background, and all resources have been renamed and have proper icons from Smack. We've been given an industrial starting wonder due to being the Hive, and if I sell a building you can hear some more custom sounds. There's not much to build at the moment until we do some more research, so I'll leave that as is. Now if I turn on cheat mode you can see some of those dangerous indigenous lifeforms we were warned about that periodically spawn around the map, and I can show you how I took John and Andrew's rather sparse Alpha Centauri map conversion and absolutely jam-packed it with detail, decoration and interactive objects using every trick I could to make it feel very Smack-like. For example, we've got the Unity crash site near us here, which just like in Alien Crossfire you can salvage for various rewards, leaving an empty ship carcass underneath. Village goody huts are now Unity pods, and I've even made a special water variant of it just like in Smack, so players are enticed to build ships early. And you've probably noticed there's lots of xenofungus in different formations taken from Smack as well, as I use the Civ 2 linked forest slots. And speaking of forests, due to the 3D terrain in Smack, forests and jungles were just flat textures, so I had to give them some fluffy branches on top to make them look like they're vertically standing trees that overlap whatever's behind them in Civ 2. Now of course one of the cool features of original Smack that I loved were big labelled landmarks, as they really gave the world some personality, so naturally I couldn't resist replicating that in Civ 2 using various tricks, and I managed to squeeze in the ruins, uranium flats, the big Garland crater, the New Sargasso ocean xenofungus, the manifold nexus, geothermal shallows, a big 3x3 Mount Planet volcano, the monsoon jungle, the borehole cluster which helps the Spartans quite a bit, and the giant sunny mesa. Creating mountains and hills were a struggle because original Smack doesn't actually have any, as it's all regular terrain vertically angled in 3D based on height information, so I had to build my own ones using chopped up bits of the sunny mesa edges. With more unit slots in Test of Time I could probably do better versions of some of these landmarks, squeeze in even more of them, and if enough people ask for it in the comments I could even do a much bigger sized large map too. Now because Civ 2 doesn't have anything like Smack's social programming system to make each faction unique, I instead gave them all starting wonders based on their known strengths as best as I could. So the Hive get an industrial boost from the bulk matter transmitter, UN get diplomacy bonuses, Believers get an unrest reduction, Morganites get economic benefits, University gets some science, Spartans get elite military, and those hippie Gaians are happier. Each faction has their own city graphics imported from Smack 2, except for Miriam, as Civ 2 MGE only allows 6 slots, so she'll have to wait for the Test of Time version which has 7 slots. I've loaded a mid-game save here where you can see I've been rapidly expanding as the Hive and have stripped the world clean of survey pods, monoliths and other things. You can see I've merged Smack's original soil enrichers, solar collectors and farm graphics into Civ 2's farms and created mini versions of its roads and mag tubes too. You can see the UN and Believers aren't going too well, while the Morganites and Academy are going okay, but the Spartans have taken the Gaians' capital and are making life very tough for them, so not long after this I decided to intervene a bit to push the Spartans back and make sure the Gaians weren't killed off. Now next I'm going to show you one of my favourite changes in that I've taken my custom sci-fi holographic display diplomacy screen template and decided to take it to the next level by making it bigger and splitting it into 2 separate display screens that show the leader face and their home city, just like in original Smack. So Miriam has that cool looking holy cathedral, and if I chat with those pesky Spartans you can see Colonel Santiago's dark and gloomy brutalist capital city as well. I'll show you guys guys the other factions screens and some gameplay over in a full mod tour bonus video another time. Now while we're here, we may as well check out the intelligence screen and all the other custom advisor screens as well, as I've used all of SMAC's big special event images to create nice immersive background images for all the advisor windows, doing my best to pick the appropriately themed matches. Those with a keen eye will also notice I've renamed many of the advisor titles and resources too, like bases, psych, energy, labs, special projects, which you can see I've built a whole bunch of here. Our spy satellite is also telling us that we're first in most things. Over in the PDA you can see I'm using custom tech school icons based on the unused social programming icons, and I've imported many of the original SMAC tech names over the top of John Maven's tech tree. But then if we go into the city buildings, you can see I've really gone nuts converting every single building and wonder over to its similar SMAC equivalent in name and ability. Plus I've also done all their picture icons, which was a huge job that took over a week, as I also did larger versions for a future Test of Time version too. The units are still mostly Andrew's conversions, as he did a great job, but I ended up adding a few more in for balancing to try and make sure that there are multiple levels of squads, rovers, hover tanks, copters, skim ships, cruisers, interceptors, sky bases, and more to research and use. I've managed to squeeze in a few native Boyle types as well, and the big ones are very dangerous in the early to mid game, but once you're up to graviton and singularity level stuff, you'll be fine. Now here's a late game save where I'm about to launch a spaceship, and I've terraformed most of my continent now. The AIs are doing quite well for themselves, including the Gaians, who've made a comeback with my help. And my capital is pretty huge, and those new icons are looking very nice now. As you can see, I've decided to include the spaceship construction in this scenario, as while I was tempted to somehow convert it into a transcendence sequence, that's a bit too much work, so I decided that you can instead turn into a spacefaring empire and go on to colonize more planets. So as a result, I've left the spaceship's icons and orbit screen as they were, but simply changed the background planet to Alpha Centauri. I reckon they go pretty well together. For the launch video, I went with the bulk matter transmitter, as it was the closest video I could find to a ship launching, although I nearly went with the space elevator too. Now if I load my final save game and end the turn, you guys can hear I've done custom sounds for all the units using extracted SMAC sounds. And here we go. I've changed the text to say we're off colonizing other worlds, and for the video I went a bit left field and chose the Alien Crossfire victory sequence, as it was kind of the closest thing I could find, other than reusing the intro, that shows spaceships arriving at another world. I'm sure purists will be like, what the hell, but you know, it just looks cool. And lastly, for this scenario, I've of course done a death video sequence, cutting together a couple of videos, as SMAC actually has kill or being killed videos for every faction. So that's it for this one, in what will likely be the last of my big total conversion scenarios for Civ 2 MGE, as any future ones will probably be for Test of Time, although I may back convert some of them to MGE, like I'm doing with my planned Master of Magic Mirror World scenario I mentioned earlier. So all that's left to show you now is my last handful of mini projects, where I took some very cool scenarios out there and spruced them up a bit with better graphics, but nothing as big as the projects I've just shown you. And I'm going to start with my remaster of Paul Herron's Terminator Future War. And as I showed you earlier in this video, Paul created a pretty cool scenario, but it lacked custom terrain graphics, resulting in everything being so bright and bland. So I massively overhauled it and recreated the dark ash world we loved seeing as kids in all the Future War sequences. And here we are. The war is in full swing. Here's some very cool sound effects. I love all the laser and plasma weapon sounds from the original films, and Paul put them in for a few units, but I decided to copy it across to a lot of others, as well as importing some Red Alert 2 machine gun and dog sounds for the human resistance units too. And as you can see, Paul has added a few new texts to the tree, and I've given him some nice icons from the various Terminator films. Plasma weapons will give us plasma marines and some much needed air units, as the humans start with none, whereas the machines have hunter-killer variants, so we definitely need our own. Wow, normally Monterey falls to the Goliath, so we got lucky this time. So as you can see, we are battling for the control of a ruined, polluted ash world north North America. If I turn on cheat mode, we'll be able to have a better look at the apocalyptic lands around us. And as you can see, Skynet controls all of the east coast, while we're holding onto the central and west coast areas. If we pop into our capital, Los Angeles, you can see I've made a custom background from the Terminator 3 Nightmare sequence, and I've darkened the regular buildings, but added in some nice custom wonders such as John Connor's training camp, with a picture of him looking out over the battlefield. And if we look at what the Resistance gets, you can build a few forms of infantry, some assault vehicles and bikes, some demolition guys, and a bunch of ships, but no aircraft. And if we hop over to the Skynet capital in Washington, you can see I've given them a Skynet Global Defense System wonder, and I've used the picture of when Skynet uses Dr. Carter's face to interact with Marcus. In the Skynet lineup, we've got Centaurians and Plasma groups, T-600s, they haven't got the deadly T-800 yet, the Goliath, and the Hunter-Killer fighters and bombers. And of course they can build a navy as well. Now, we've got a demolition team near Houston that can bust through the city walls and take down the defenders. Oh no! Normally you win that one, so it looks like we've got some karma there. But we've got a couple of assault vehicles here that we can use to bring down the Goliath and the last of Houston's defenders. There we go, Houston is ours. So already the fight back's going pretty well, but of course Skynet has so much more. As what makes this scenario so cool is that if you were like me as a kid, you've probably often wondered what was happening around the rest of the world. Is there a resistance in Europe and Asia and other parts of the world? And this scenario answers that, as you've got a whole global conflict going on here. As you've got a South American resistance battling Skynet as well. And then over in Africa you can see Skynet's been busy. What's interesting is the red player is the barbarian slot, so there's no proper AI controlling it, which means it won't properly fight back, and Skynet will probably be able to roll over these cities and take all of Africa quite easily, making it even deadlier. And then if we head up north, sure enough, there's a European resistance going on, although they're in a bit of a pickle as they're literally wedged between the American Skynet and the Russian Skynet factions, so you're going to be constantly hit from both sides. Although there is a Russian resistance that can put some pressure on them as well. And if we head over into Asia, you can see the Russian Skynet is pushing into India and China, but I'd say the Asian resistance forces are actually probably one of the best ones to play as the Skynet here doesn't have much in its cities, which means you can probably overwhelm them without too much trouble. And on top of that, the rest of Central Asia is under neutral barbarian faction, meaning you could easily overwhelm them as well. And you're already in control of Australia and New Zealand, which means you can have a huge Australasian empire ready to go without too much trouble. But yeah, back in the States, it looks like I forgot to deal with the Winnipeg situation. Got him. Now let's go have a look at the pedia to see all the other changes. As mentioned earlier, Paul has squeezed some custom text into the usual tree, and I've applied some cool icons to the whole thing. And as for buildings, Paul unfortunately pretty much left everything as is, and I haven't done much either, other than putting a CNC image for the command headquarters and darkening everything else for immersion. And similarly over in the Wonders, I've just darkened most of them, and most of them are lost anyway, but the ones that are still active in the game, I've applied fun ruined graphics to. So we've got an apocalyptic Eiffel Tower, some Terminator-inspired ones with cool images, and a burning Statue of Liberty from Red Alert 2. And over in the units, I've darkened most of the regular Civ 2 units used to better match the world and the custom units that Paul put in the game. We've got lots of Resistance and Terminator units there, and of course the mighty T-800. It looks pretty deadly and has glowing eyes there. In fact, speaking of which, just for fun I added glowing eyes to the engineers around the map as well. And of course, if you want to play as Skynet destroying the human resistance, you can as well. So there's a lot of fun to be had in this one, and I hope people check it out. Now earlier on I mentioned John Valdez's Civ 1 mod for Civ 2, and how I demastered it of sorts. Well, let's show you that one. And I'm starting with showing you the Start a New Game sequence, where John has replaced all the images with parts of the Civ 1 intro, which is quite a nice effect. But we'll stop at the city style screen, which gives a hint as to what's coming with cool custom city images. But we'll back out because John actually created a scenario to better work within his rule set, as starting a new game can cause some glitches, and so it's better to start John's included scenario file, which has all the Civ 1 rules already set up. And as you can see, John's put in the Civ 1 intro text here as well for the scenario start. We'll play as the Americans as usual. I've added in a nice scenario title image based on the Civ 1 intro sequence, and here we are. Not very Civ 2 looking anymore, is it? As you can see, I've converted the 2D Civ 1 terrain into Civ 2's 2.5D isometric engine. But before we look at the rest of the map, let's make a new city where you can see John has changed some of the event images and put in Civ 1 images there too. And he's made a very nice custom Civ 1 style GUI for the game window and the city window, and filled it with all the authentic Civ 1 resource icons, which looks really good. But if I load a test save game, I can give you a way better look of all the changes. But as you can see in this test save game I made, we get a much better look at all the changes made, as I've imported as much authentic Civ 1 terrain as I can from the original game, and anything that I couldn't really do properly, like rivers, hills and mountains, I downscaled Civ 2's and recolored them to make them look like Civ 1's. And then the next challenge was the special resources, as Civ 2 has way more special resources than Civ 1, so I brought across everything I could, and then I either had to modify existing Civ 1 or Civ 2 ones to have a similar style to the rest. Then I looked at terrain improvements and got the 2D railroads and roads converted and suited to Civ 2's isometric environment, and with the irrigation I drew from scratch an isometric version of the original one, but took out the farmland bits for the plain irrigation version and put them back in for the farm version. I imported and rotated the mines and pollution, and for airfields I had to make something from scratch since Civ 1 didn't have them. And then we got forts and goody huts exactly as they were, and of course all the Civ 1 units imported as they were too. And as we look around the world, you can see more examples of jungles and swamplands and desert and hills and mountain formations, and some of the other civs, which exposes a bit of an issue with this mod in that the city colours are quite limited due to the way Civ 2 handles them versus Civ 1. So not everyone is colour correct, but it's still pretty cool how Civ 1 looking they are. And then if we go into the pedia, you can see John has heavily modified the tech tree to be just like the classic Civ 1s, as he's removed pretty much all the Civ 2 content. And then in the buildings, you can see John has converted in all the classic Civ 1 building images, which is so nostalgically awesome to see here. And he's done the same thing with the wonders too, replacing all the images with the classic Civ 1 wonders while removing all the exclusive Civ 2 ones. And as already shown, he's imported and set up all the Civ 1 units, but removed all the Civ 2 ones, and I've redone their graphics. Now, outside of John's scenario, these changes can cause a few glitches if you load up a regular Civ 2 save, but I've done so here just so I can show you some more of the graphical stuff. We get a great look here at what the finished railways and farmlands look like, and the road formations look pretty cool too. But if we hop into the city, you can really see all those classic icons looking really cool, and all the little citizens there, and taxmen and Elvises. So yeah, there's a few glitches, but I was pretty much done there, and pretty proud of my work with John's mod. But then a fellow named Kasius came along, and he decided to take things even further to the next level and make an even bigger total conversion Civ 1 mod for Civ 2, using the stuff that John did, the stuff that I did, and a whole bunch of new stuff that he's done. And you can already see the first part of that here, as he has imported the Civ 1 intro sequence into Civ 2's. And interestingly, it looks like he filmed it with a camera in his hand and then put the recording on his PC and then converted it over to Civ 2's Indio video format, resulting in this rather sort of interesting, shaky, sort of old movie-like feel to it. I've had to cover up his music for copyright reasons, but I think his music is from the old Russian War and Peace film, which is quite good if you're into Napoleonic era stuff, since as you'll soon see, he's got a lot of other Napoleonic era imagery throughout this mod. Now what's really cool about this mod is that Kasius was a big fan of all the crazy work MetroPolis and I were doing with our Heroes of Might and Magic 2 mod, and we were posting a lot of guides on editing the DLL, graphics and video files to really overhaul Civ 2, and obviously Kasius was quite inspired by that, as he's changed a lot here. You can see he's changed the main menu background to the Civ 1 logo, you can see he's changed all the new game images, and when I get to the end you can see those cities look a bit different to the ones John and I made, as Kasius has come up with his own fascinating way of fixing the city colour problem. So to show you that, why don't I load up some of the scenarios he's made, as he's included a whole bunch in his mod. We've got 2 standard Earth games allowing you to pick a whole bunch of different civs, so if you're not happy with the lineup in one of them, you can go do it with the other one. So I'm probably going to go with the Earth 1 game so I can start as the Americans as usual. And here we are again, whereas as you can see, Kasius is using my custom demastered Civ 1 terrain, although he's cleverly put the Civ colour flag just beneath the units. He's got our GUI for the city and the main game interface, but with some different little zoom icons in the top left corner there. But if you look at the city, it's got this weird half grey look, since Kasius has cleverly taken advantage of the fact that when a unit is in the city, it normally displays a small flag. But if you maximise the whole asset area that flag sits in with a colour, you can make the city take on the colour of that civ. So if I play a few turns to get us our first militia, you can see the city has turned blue now. And if I use cheat mode to reveal the map and look at the other civs, you can see the same effect has happened on many of them if they've still got a unit in their city. So it's a pretty cool effect and a very ingenious idea, as I can't think of any other mod out there using the unit in city flag for graphics manipulation. But now why don't I show you the best thing he's done? As when MetroPolis and I were making our custom heralds for the diplomacy screen with Heroes of Might and Magic 2 creatures, Metro came up with the really clever idea of moving the video character area over the top of the leader face in the center of the diplomacy screen and then using it to create animating facial expressions. And while we decided not to go in that direction and stick with our little Heroes 2 units animating, Kasius saw this and decided to use that to recreate the animating Civ 1 leader faces. So he took all their frames out of Civ 1, put it into a video in Civ 2, and as you can see here, it plays out in the center of the diplomacy screen just like it did in Civ 1. Absolutely brilliant modding work. And he's also done a custom background using background elements from the various different eras of the Civ 1 diplomacy screen. So you've got some ancient guys, some modern guys. It's just really cool to see those classic leaders like Caesar and Ramses blinking and pulling happy and angry faces based on what you say to them, just like in the old days, but in Civ 2. Just awesome. Now next, why don't I load up some of the proper scenarios he's included in his mod, as he's converted a bunch of the most popular classic ones over, such as Alexander, the American Civil War, and obviously since he's such a big Napoleon fan, he's converted the Age of Napoleon scenario over, which is very cool, since those who've come from my Civ 1 episode will know that over the years fans have actually made scenarios for Civ 1, even though it didn't support them, that are very cool, but obviously over here in Civ 2 you can just do so much more. And here we are. So if I turn on cheat mode, we can get a better look at everything, and we can see our best example yet of how his color-coded city trick works on lots of different cities, as well as his choice of moving the unit shields to little ones just beneath the pictures also makes them all look quite clean as well. Now Kasius has also replaced all the advisor backgrounds, although admittedly it's just basically a black picture, I guess, to sort of mimic the simplicity of the Civ 1 advisor screens. And it's cool to see all those Civ 1 icons there, so it certainly gives you a different feel to what you're used to in Civ 2. Once again, it's nice seeing all those Civ 1 wonders there, although there are a few glitches with these scenarios, since I think he's converted regular Civ 2 scenarios over that used a number of Civ 2 things that have been taken out of the tech unit and building trees in this mod, so you may see and experience some strange bugs while playing these, as I've seen a few things. And lastly, the final thing I want to show you guys is something really cool, as once again taking inspiration from the crazy stuff MetroPolis and I did with the custom graphics in the city view screen, Kasius has done it for his mod as well, and we've got lots of Civ 1 buildings and people in the streets and all sorts of stuff. Very cool to see the old Civ 1 city screen sort of replicated in Civ 2. Now getting back to my own mini mod projects, earlier on in this video I showed you guys the Azeroth Warcraft scenario by Alt F18 and how I took his graphics and put it over the top of Matt Smith's Warcraft scenario, so let's show you that now. Matt's put together a nice little intro, which you can pause the video to read if you want, but basically it's setting up a story around the time of Warcraft 1, although interestingly it says the orcs come from the swamps instead of Draenor. Nevertheless, we can play as them, Azeroth, and the monks. I wouldn't bother with the monks as they don't have much, but Azeroth is pretty good, so we'll start as them. Pointless tech. I guess we won't be doing any research in this scenario. Now, Alt F18's original scenario didn't have much scenario design, but lots of graphics, whereas Matt's had the opposite, so that's why I thought they'd make the perfect marriage in heaven. As you can see, Matt's scenario with Alt F18's graphics is looking much nicer now, but because this is a quick and dirty project, I haven't really done much with the graphics myself. It is literally just a transfer of Alt F18's graphics, so you'll notice a few little glitches here and there, but but for the most part it looks pretty darn good, as he's used authentic graphics for nearly everything. Azeroth have a big empire, and the orcs are over in the swamps with a big empire, so it's pretty much 50-50 in odds, and you can play as either faction battling to victory. The only major thing I've really done is throw in a nice city background based on the Alliance victory screen from Warcraft 2. And because we've brought across Alt F18's icons file, we've got some nice custom population and buildings here. Matt has set things up nicely so the humans can only build human units and the orcs can only build orc units. Now up in the PDA we've got no custom text, but we do have some nice city improvements, which are a mix of authentic buildings from Warcraft 2 and a mix of various fantasy buildings from other Civ 2 scenarios. There's no custom wonders sadly, but over in the units we've got lots of great stuff here, as Matt's original scenario did have all the custom units, and Alt F18 actually ended up using Matt's units, so we've gone full circle here. But Matt did a pretty good job with the conversions. Most of them are quite clear, despite having to downsize many of them to fit in Civ 2. And Test of Time conversion guru Gapeted has told me that he's working on and off on an improved Test of Time version of this that would allow for much bigger one-to-one unit conversions, as well as improving all the other graphics too. And I might try and help him with it too, so watch this space. Now, similarly, Alan's old Starcraft scenario was also lacking custom terrain. Had custom units and cities, but not much custom terrain. So I decided to combine it with the assets from Catfish's unfinished, unreleased Test of Time Starcraft scenario. There's no story, as Alan's scenario is a pretty simple one, but the idea of a Starcraft Civ scenario is super cool. So when I discovered that Alan's scenario didn't really have all that much, I just couldn't resist doing something, even if it was just another quick and dirty job. As you can see, we're arriving on a strange alien world, and you can play as several of the human factions. In fact, there are no Zerg or Protoss, it is just humans versus humans, unfortunately. But what's cool is that Catfish's terrain that I imported, a lot of it actually is from Starcraft, so I didn't have to do much. But much like with Warcraft, I did do a custom city background using one of the Terrann campaign pictures. Now, because this is sandbox and there's not much going on, I might go straight to a test game so I can give you guys a much better look at everything. And here we are, with some bases I prepared earlier. We've started working the lands and we can build a few different marine units. We've got Jim Raynor standing there, ready for orders. There's lots of minerals and Vespene gas everywhere. There's lots of little refinery mines getting built around the place. I've put in some Test of Time enclosed dome farms. Sadly, Alan didn't make a city names file and I couldn't be bothered either, so Civ 2 is just putting in regular old Civ names in there, sorry. Now over here we've got the Ghosts, which means Sarah Kerrigan should be there. And when units fortify, they get a bunker over the top of them, which is an interesting idea from Alan. So yeah, it's a pretty cool world. Not perfect, as like I said, this was pretty quick and dirty, but a hell of a lot better than it was. And if we have a look at the PDA, we can see that Alan actually has done his own custom tech tree for the scenario, which is pretty cool. And some nice custom icons too. And then if we look at the buildings, he's imported in a few of the good old Starcraft buildings, but there's not a huge amount here. And it's a similar story with the Wonders, although he's renamed them to Addons. But over in the military units, Alan's done quite a lot and imported pretty much the full Terran lineup, so I haven't really touched anything here. Although interestingly, he's made every single unit attack 1, defense 1, and given them different firepower and hit point values, which I'm not sure if that really works, as 1 versus 1 means it becomes a battle of chance. So yes, if your luck falls down the line, then yeah, the unit with the better hit points and firepower should win the battle, but I don't know if that really works, as I had a massive battleship lose to a marine when I was testing it, so I think this possibly needs to be fully reworked, as I get where Alan was going. He wanted longer battles, but it doesn't really work in Civ 2's battle system. So yeah, it's a cool scenario that I've zooped up a bit, but it definitely needs some more love from a dedicated Civ 2 Starcraft fan out there. But next, as previously mentioned, there was a cool unfinished Dead Worlds mod pack made back in the 90s by Luca Rejek & Co, which kind of disappeared off the face of the earth, which was such a shame as it had a really unique terrain set. So I decided to make a complete scenario using the Mars scenario assets. So I've put the Mars intro and reworded it. I've kept Lucas custom factions, hence why you got Microsoft, and I think there's a Pamela Anderson faction in one of the respawn slots too. We've got the full Mars scenario tech tree. I haven't really changed that, as it always worked great back in the day. Now what I quickly realised when looking at this Dead World scenario is that it's actually set on Saturn's moon, Iapetus. So I've put in a nice photo of it as the title, and if you can see see that giant ash desert, just like on the real moon. And if we pop into our starting base, you can see I've put in a custom city background that's using an artist image of a colony on the Aeptus moon, looking back at Saturn there, just below the food storage area. I've also imported the Test of Time sci-fi scenario icons and citizens, as I've always liked using them in sci-fi scenarios. And if we have a look around the map, you can see this is a very sandbox scenario. Everyone has pretty much landed in the nice, soft and safe ash desert, but if you want some more of those juicy resources and high production, then you're going to need to venture out into the mountains and glacial areas where there's lots of cool special resources. And this is like really why I wanted to rescue this scenario, as there's a lot of stuff here that you just don't see in any other scenario, so the work they did deserves more recognition, as I'd argue this feels even more otherworldly than the Mars scenario does, meaning it should be very fun to play. There's just all sorts of stuff here. We've got minerals, platinum, metals, deposits, artifacts, meteors, iron, helium-3, geothermal, and all sorts of interesting looking stuff in the polar regions, which I've actually heavily modified, as I was a bit worried that Civ 2 crashes when there's no ocean cells when it tries to summon pirate, so I've created some shallow, melted polar region areas that pirates can summon in and players can get water for their irrigation systems from if needed. Although I decided to be nicer than the Mars scenario and give everyone some starting irrigation they can expand from across the ash desert if needed. And if we hop up into the pedia, we've got the full Mars scenario tech tree, so nothing's changed there. The buildings are completely identical to the MetroPolis Mars scenario, and it's the same for the wonders. It's completely identical to the Mars scenario except for Alien Way, where it had a picture of an alien on Mars, so I've replaced that with a picture of Aeptus. And then lastly, with the military units, it's once again exactly the same as the MetroPolis Mars scenario. The only real change I've made is to the LMO troopers, as I always felt they were very unbalanced in the original Mars scenarios. They were more powerful than all the vehicles and they could teleport anywhere with power drops, so I've taken away some of that. So yeah, now that people can properly play this scenario, I hope people enjoy Luca's work and mine. I've already mentioned my special playing as barbarians against the regular 7 Civ scenario, and that I'll be doing a dark Master of Myrror Junior scenario in the future, and I'm currently working on the Babylon 5 scenario Remaster 2, so keep an eye out for them. Now onto my simple Terrann mod packs. Way back in part 1 I already gave you guys a full tour of my better Terrann graphics mod for Civ 2, so there's no need to go into it all again. I also showed you guys quite a lot of my continuation of Weiron's PlayStation graphics mod for the PC version, but here's some quick footage showing a bit more of it, and the custom city background I made using textures from the PlayStation version, and showing you some more of the cute PlayStation unit graphics that I painstakingly imported in, as they didn't quite fit. I also showed you guys my continuation of VW Psycho's Test of Time graphics mod for Civ 2 MGE, but here's some more footage of that too, where you can see things looking very tot-like in MGE. And note the custom city background I made that gives you the illusion of the transparent city background effect in Test of Time, and the tot units are all imported in here too. And for those that are curious, you can pause the video to see a list here of all the other old scenarios, most of which I've shown you in this video, that I also tinkered with, fixing various bugs and graphical issues just to make them a bit more fun and accessible to everyone these days. So that's it. We have but one final scenario to cover in this video, and it's the one that started it all for me. My 1999 Star Wars Battle of Hoth scenario. This was my first ever Civ 2 scenario project, and the reason I came back to Civ 2 modding a few years ago, as I was just going to finish up and release this one and nothing more, but next thing I knew I was taking on all these other huge projects I've just finished showing you guys. But anyway, I'll go as the Empire as they get the first move, and you can see I've created an intro image from the good old X-Wing game cutscenes. In this old scenario I decided to expand the Empire's attack on the rebel base on Hoth from Star Wars Empire Strikes Back to have more planet surface battles and fleets of ships battling in orbit. And if I reveal the map I can show you it all now, as I decided back when I made this that I wanted to make a hybrid space scenario with big planet surfaces so you can have ground battles as well as space battles. This hybrid theme felt like a different approach to what I'd seen anyone else do at the time, although as we've seen earlier in this video series, it turns out plenty of people had done this, but I just hadn't seen that back in '99 when I made this and thought that I was innovating. This scenario was massively inspired by Nathan Dawson's Star Wars Battle for a Deutsch scenario, which I think used Paul Cadwell's Star Wars Modpack assets. So I took most of Adoige's Star Wars units and played around with their graphics a bit, adding stuff like glowing engines and lasers, and I added a few of my own custom units into here too. With the terrain, you can see I've used graphics from the official MicroProse Mars Now and Master of Orion Junior scenarios, and some roads, rails and fortification shields from other sci-fi scenarios in the best of collections that came with the official add-on packs as well, as I don't think I had much internet access back then to find better stuff out there. And if we pop into one of the bases, you can see custom buildings from Adoige using icons from the Mars and other official sci-fi scenarios, once again showing I was just making do with what I had offline back then. I also added hero units like Luke Skywalker, the Millennium Falcon and Darth Vader, and as you can see I also put some Imperial bases on a nearby moon, which obviously didn't happen in the film, but I wanted to balance the factions out more. I also made a land version of Vader's Super Star Destroyer, the Executor, and because Battle for Adoige had Jedi Knights running around, I took a few more liberties and added a glowing-eyed Sith Lord variant of them to fight as well. Now the reason I never released this back in the 90s was because I hit the rather annoying Civ 2 carrier AI issue where ships that carry fighters run away from everything, which really ruined things and took the wind out of my sails back then. So I just never released it, and even to this day there's still no way to avoid this problem in MGE. However, regardless of this, I'm now going to finally release it, 25 years too late, but hey, at least I can finally get some closure on this. But because of its issues, it'll probably be best played as a multiplayer scenario. I believe the carrier AI runaway issue can be avoided in Test of Time though, so I may convert it to that in the future if people want me to. Anyway, more recently, I've touched up the graphics and GUI a bit using some stuff from Kobayashi's far superior Star Wars Insurrection scenario, along with some other stuff I've made myself, but I'm not giving it the full overhaul treatment you've seen me do with my other big new mods, as I kinda want to keep it as originally intended. However, my old modding buddy MetroPolis took interest in my old project and decided to do a revamp of it using Fairline's gorgeous Test of Time Star Wars units pack, and he's replaced my blocky Super Star Destroyer with a proper one using land formation tricks, so you guys might be more interested in playing that one instead. But that is it guys, that is all of the best total conversion scenarios for Civ 2, including some of my own crazy ones. Now if you know of an awesome looking total conversion scenario that I've missed in this video series, please let me know in the comments and I'll look at covering it in a future video. Although odds are I haven't covered it because it's lost, which means I might need you to send it to me so we can preserve it, since as previously mentioned I spent years searching the internet and collecting huge donations of many lost scenarios and have painstakingly preserved them across multiple sites like Civ Fanatics, ModDB and Internet Archive. So if you have a big old collection of Civ 2 scenarios that you think contain stuff that I don't already have, then please contact me. And there's still a bunch I've been trying to find, including some Star Wars ones. While hunting for many of these lost scenarios, I got to visit hundreds of old classic 1990s Civ 2 fan websites on Internet Archive.org, some of which even still had working downloads. And much like when visiting my own retro Blake Sanctum website, visiting these old sites is like jumping through a time portal into the good old days when we were young kids making websites about our favourite old games. So I decided to do a side project cataloguing all the old Civ 2 fan websites that I could find, listing them on Civ Fanatics, and I'll make sure to give you guys the link to that too. I also encourage people to visit the Civ Fanatics Civ 2 Scenario League, as there are still some great talented modders there making cool scenarios for Civ 2 MGE and Test of Time to this very day, just like I am. So drop by, say hi and tell them Blake sent you. Hey, maybe I'll be the first person there to say hi back to you. And hopefully, as previously mentioned, if my campaign to get Civ 1, Civ 2 and Test of Time back into modern digital stores like GOG and Steam again succeeds, then that will help the community a lot too. As yes, I know Civ 2 is available via other, less legal options, but let's be real here, only a minority of gamers use those sites, whereas digital stores are also mass marketing platforms to the casual gamer. So if we can get these games back out there on the big sites in easy to use installers, compatible with modern systems, that should bring a big influx of fans back to the Civ 2 communities, looking to play and make new scenarios, hopefully triggering a bit of a Civ 2 modding renaissance period. I see a lot of people calling for a full remaster too as well, which would be super cool, especially if it still supported optional retro graphics and the thousands of original scenarios out there. However, who knows if that'll ever happen, so my energies are going into getting the original games back out there to start with, and also supporting the Civ 2 clone project, as that hopes to merge Civ 2 MGE and Tested Time into one enhanced fan game that will allow more than 7 players. And so if you've got experience with Net8, C# or Raylib, then please check out their GitHub page, as those guys can use all the help they can get. Now obviously I haven't really touched on Civ 2's big map making scene, as there are hundreds of maps out there for pretty much everywhere you can think of, so I'll put a link below where you can get some big collections, as well as Peter's popular Civ Map Gen tool that can generate some utterly huge maps, way bigger ones than Civ 2's default map editor can do. There's a whole lot of other great Civ 2 editors and patches out there like Civ Tweak and Civ City, Mercator's Map Edit, Matt McLeod's old Modpack manager, Tech 10's Civ Mod tool, Duple J's new Civ 2 patch that makes many advanced changes to Civ 2, including tot-like large pedia images for everything, including units. And of course Foxahead's brilliant game-changing Civ 2 UIA tool I mentioned all the way back in part 1, just to name a few of the best ones. One day I may do a new part 4 continuing this Civ 2 main episode tour video if more new and amazing stuff comes along for Civ 2, which will change the end card link, as it's looking like I'm going to have to do that with my Civ 1 main tour video, as all sorts of cool new stuff has happened with Civ 1 since I made that video years ago. But otherwise, the next main episode in this series will be for Civ 2 Test of Time, as that has its own big selection of amazing scenarios, many of which are enhanced remastered versions of the Civ 2 MGE scenarios I showed you in this video, so I can't wait to show you them. And as previously mentioned, I'm going to be doing lots of big bonus episodes looking at the official and fan-made Civ 2 console conversions for PlayStation 1, Nokia N-Gage and Commodore 64, as well as the big fan remakes like the FreeCiv, C-evo and Civ 2 clone projects. And of course I'll be doing much bigger, more detailed tours, taking a closer look at some of the amazing total conversion scenarios I've quickly shown you today, in even more separate Civ 2 MGE bonus episodes. So make sure you subscribe and check out the playlist link below to see those episodes when they come out. Well, that's everything, guys. I've had a blast showing you all this great stuff, and thank you if you've managed to stick around through all 3 parts and all these hours. I appreciate you. Other episodes will definitely not be this long, as other Civ games don't have the thousands of mods Civ 2 does. So I hope you continue to watch this series where I play Civ games and its spin-offs in HD. There's my previous episodes on Civ 1, Colonization and Master of Magic, and next I'll be looking at Tested Time, Alpha Centauri, Kulta Power, Civ 3 and beyond. On top of that, I'm also going to try and play as the Barbarian faction in all of these games via hacks or cheats too. Plus I plan to cover some of the amazing Civ related fan games out there and all the best total conversion mods out there for these games too, including some of my own I've been working on. There's lots coming, so stay tuned by subscribing and checking out the playlist link in the video description below. Well, that's it, guys. I'm off to grease my abacus. Bye.